Hi everyone, so today what we're going to do is have a little look at creating a Gantt chart from a work breakdown structure. Okay, now I'm going to start off by giving you like a simple example, and I'm going to give you a work breakdown structure to take away as your task for today, and then see if you can create a Gantt chart, and I'll give you a template to put that onto as well. Okay, so hopefully this example will help you see the kind of thought process you have to go through to get from your work breakdown structure to creating that Gantt chart in the visual form. So here what we've got on the left hand side is a very simplistic work breakdown structure that I've made for making a cup of tea, a mug of tea. Okay, I've deliberately put all of the tasks that are in here in a really random order, but I do have their interdependencies listed just so it makes it a little bit more difficult for you and you have to kind of do the proper problem solving. Okay, on the right you can see that I've got a template set up with a set of 12 tasks which match up to my 12 tasks here. Okay, I'm going to pop the interdependencies in there just to make sure I've got them right, and then my task names are going to go in here, and I'm going to fill this part out with the Gantt chart. Okay, so you can see the whole thing is split up into 30 seconds, and then these have got 30-second sessions. Now obviously some things like stir tea, it's not going to take a full 30 seconds, but things like fill and boil the kettle won't take just 1 minute and 30 seconds, but it's just sort of a very, very vague layout to give you an idea of how you would actually build something like this up. Okay, again, when it comes to hours or weeks for a real project, it won't be precise, but it's just to give you an idea of how everything links together. So what we need to do is first of all have a little look at our set of 12 tasks and decide kind of what order they need to go in. Obviously thinking about it as a task that we are doing, that we know how to do potentially, and then obviously taking into account the interdependencies that are actually there, okay? Now usually when you would be doing this task, you would have written your work breakdown structure and you would have these in order, so it is a little bit easier than what we're going to look at today, but hopefully if you can do it this way, then it should be really easy when it comes to completing it for your own project, okay? So you can see we've got stir tea, remove and compost a tea bag, get out and add tea bag to your mug, get out and add milk to your mug, clear away your mess, fill and boil kettle, leave to stew, get out and add sweetener to mug, drink, get out mug, leave to cool and pour hot water into mug. Now what I would say is the first thing you want to do is look at the tasks that have no interdependencies. So we've got clear away mess. Now that seems to me like something that would come nearer the end of the process. Okay, fill and boil kettle and get out mug. Okay, so it's up to you what order you want to do these in. However, fill and boil kettle lasts for 3 sessions. The get out the mug could actually happen simultaneously to that. So I'm going to start off with fill and boil kettle. Okay, copy and paste that into my first task. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so I've got my text in there. You can see that fill and boil kettle takes 3 30-second sessions. So I'm going to highlight those 3 in red, so my critical path. Okay, we can't do anything that relies on the kettle being boiled until after that session, so this becomes part of your critical path. Okay, it's got no interdependencies, so I'll leave that bit blank. Okay, and then I decide what goes next. Now what you might want to do as you work through this is highlight these as done, just so you know which ones you've completed. It makes it a little bit easier, like a wee checklist. All right, so what do I go with 2? Now because this is happening for 30 seconds, you might find there's something that relies on fill and kettle, so anything that relies on 6 here can't be done till after, so you can't leave the tea to stew until 6 is done, you can't pour hot water in the mug until 6 is done. Okay, so there's a number of different things, but what we could do is we could get that mug out straight after that. Okay, so I'm going to copy that text, pop it across into here. Okay, so get out mug. Right, once that's been completed, highlight that as done. Okay, that was number 10. So was there anything else that relied on number 10 being done? Pour hot water in the mug? Well, we could do that. Okay, but it would need to happen after this. And the other thing is get out and add a tea bag to a mug. Now I should say, because the get out mug can happen at the same time, I could fill that out. I'm going to use a different colour to show that's kind of a float. So I could do that now, I could do it here, or I could do it here. It doesn't really matter. Okay, but I've got get out and get tea bag, so let's do that next. Copy, paste that in here, and I'm going to add that there as a task that still can happen when the kettle's being boiled. Okay, now get out and add tea bag to mug does have an interdependency to task number 10, which was get out mug. So I'm actually going to put that as an interdependency to task number 2. So it's basically the same thing that I'm typing in there, but it's just got a different number now because it's in a different order. Okay, so let's highlight that as completed. Okay, what have we got? We've got add milk to mug. Oh, here's another one that's got 10 that relies on get out and add sweetener. So let's highlight that, it's done. And pop that, oops, highlight that, copy and paste that here as plain text, and that also can happen after that. I suppose it doesn't really matter which order your tea bag and your sweetener go in, because they were both reliant on just the mug being out. Okay, you could technically start filling the kettle after that, although we're trying to be conservative with the time that we've got. Okay, so next thing's next, right? So we've got all this thing done. We're hoping that by this point the kettle's boiled, so we're on to kind of whatever happens after the kettle's boiled. So the kettle boil was number 6. So we can either pour hot water into the mug or leave to stew. Now it makes more sense to pour the hot water into the mug first, so I'm going to copy that. If I can. Copy, paste this across to here. And it was relying on 6 and 10, which was get out mug and fill and boil kettle, which we both got now. So that was 1 and 2. So we can pop that in there if we want. It's not really important that this is filled out per se, but it's just quite nice to have a look at it afterwards. And that takes 1 session, but it's now part of our critical path. Okay, so if this doesn't happen straight after that, then the whole thing becomes delayed. So that's red again, rather than this floating green, which could change positions. Let's highlight that as done in our highlighted. Okay, so next thing we had was that was relying on 6 was leave to stew. Now leave to stew was relying on 3 being done, which is get out the tea bag, which we've done, and 6 being done, which was fill and boil kettle. So this is actually good to go. So we can leave to stew now the hot water's in. We can paste that, and that was relying on the tea bag being added, which was number 3, and the hot water being in, which was number 5. So put 3, 5, both done, and we'll pop that in. It only said it took 1, actually did it? Leave to stew takes 2, so we need to highlight 2 boxes this time and then pop them in as red. Okay, oops, highlight it across as done. Good, so we're fairly getting through this. So what we've got now is number 6, 7 completed. So we can see up here we've got remove and compost tea bag relies on number 7. Okay, so we could pop that in next, or we've also got drink relies on number 7. So I don't really think that we want to drink it actually when the tea bag's still in, so that's maybe not quite right. We've also got mug relies on number 12 being done, pour hot water in the mug, which we've actually done. Okay, so I think what I would usually do is put the milk in next, so I'm going to highlight that and take this and copy and paste. Okay, so we're going to get in and add the milk, and the milk takes 1 session to do, so we'll pop that in there, and we've highlighted that yellow already. Some people might be absolutely really disgusted by the fact that I put my milk in with my tea bag, but you know, everyone to their own. Okay, so I'm going to then take out my tea bag next, so I'll pop that in here, and that takes 1 session as well. Okay, so these could be done in a different order. If you want to swap them around, that's fine, but they do both rely on number, what do we call it, number 10, which was get out the mug. Sorry, getting myself all confused here. So remove and compost tea bag was both reliant on 7 being completed, which was leave to stew. So we highlight that, not highlight that off, that's wrong. So 7 leave to stew was this, which is 6. Okay, so we've got that there. Get out and add mug. Milk was reliant on 12, and 12 was pour hot water, so that's reliant on 5. Okay, so what have we got next? We've got stir tea, clear away mess, drink, and leave to cool. Now, some of these, like clear away mess, doesn't actually rely on anything else having been done. So actually, what we could do is we could leave it to cool and then clear away mess while that's happening to try and conserve some of our time. So what I would say we probably want to do next, now we've removed the tea bag, is give it a stir. So copy that and paste that in, and stir takes 1 session. It was reliant on 2 things, 2 and 4, which was remove tea bag and get out milk. So we've got 7 and 8, 7,8. So it relied on both those things having been completed. Number 10 is, what do we think next? So we've stirred the tea, let's highlight that as completed. So I say we leave to cool whilst we clear away the mess, and then we drink it lastly. Okay, so let's highlight that, copy, paste it in there as leave to cool, clear away mess at the same time as we leave to cool, which we can pop on as a green block, and then we will drink as our last task. Okay, now the leave to cool was 2 sessions, so we'll pop that in as 2 red. The drink is the last thing. And then the clear away mess you could decide to do next to this session or next to this session. Doesn't really matter which one you want to do, but we just need to make sure that's in green because it's a wee float. So it could be there or there, time dependent. Somebody else phoned you in the middle, for example, that wouldn't work, okay? If we want to pop on our interdependencies, drink could only happen after number 7, which was leave to stew. So in ours, that's number 6. So I'm going to pop a wee 6 in there. The clear away mess could only happen, it didn't actually rely on anything, so it's blank. And then the leave to cool could only happen after session 1, which was stir tea, which in ours is session 9. So I'm going to pop that in there. 9. Okay, and hopefully you can double check it. So the reason I have filled this out is so I can double check that I've got everything right. So this relies on 2 being completed, which it has. 5 relies on 1 and 2 being completed, which they have to. So basically you should be able to check that the numbers in this column are less than the numbers in this column. So if there's one that's bigger, then it wouldn't make sense, okay? So 12 can only be done when 6 is done, 10 can only be done when 9's done, 9 can only be done when both 7 and 8 are done. And you could kind of try and see this pattern so they start to get bigger as they move up in that way that it works. Okay, now your task is going to be slightly different because you are going to do a much bigger task and you can decide certain things that go in order, so you'll just need to play about with it. But we hopefully by the end should have all 12 highlighted on this side and then all 12 filled out in this side. Now there will be more than one way to do it, as I said. So for example, things like you're sweetening your tea bag, these could be the opposite way around. You also could change things like you're adding your milk and removing your tea bag, could be the opposite way around. Okay, but this pattern would tend to look quite similar. Okay, with your slightly longer ones, with your 3 session, 2 session, 2 session, and they should refer to the same numbers that are down here. Okay, so when you open up your task, which is here, what you can see is you've got a kind of work breakdown structure for my typical day. In fact, this is my kind of usual Monday. So you'll see things like I've got a tea break that I usually have for 1 session, 20 minutes. I've got a lunch break, which I usually have for 3 20-minute sessions for an hour lunch break, but there's certain things that can happen at the same time as them. So for example, there's 3 times throughout the day that I'll usually check and reply to emails on my phone. That could be while I'm having a tea break. That could be for the last 20 minutes of my lunch break, okay? But there's other interdependencies that do matter. So you can see that 12 comes up quite a lot. So 12, if we have a little look at it, is set up your computer and open all applications, which is likely to be the first thing that's going to be done in the morning. And that means that all of these tasks can take place, okay? I check and respond to show my homework notifications a couple of times throughout the day. So you could pop that in wherever you want. So there's a lot more room for maneuverability within this task, okay? But there is certain interdependencies that you need to be careful of. So for example, you can see here, you can't record and respond to the advanced higher work until you've already done task 5, which is download and marked all the advanced higher work. Okay, so you do the downloading and the marking all first, and then you record in the spreadsheet and respond to the work. Okay, so that's kind of like what my day looks like. There's some that's going to be a little bit more complicated with recording and uploading videos before creating a show my homework task. So have a play about with it. Decide, how the day looks like and try and split it up. And when you get the template, you'll see that it starts at 20 to 9 in the morning and finishes at 4 o'clock. But that gives you time to set up, it gives you time to shut down, and it gives your tea break and your lunch break in between there. Okay, so think about what's a critical path, think about what could be a floater, what could happen at the same time. Okay, and I'll pop a couple of comments at the bottom just to give you some hints and tips, but I want you to try and create a Gantt chart for this week and see how you get on. Okay, and then just upload your Gantt chart to me and I'll have a little mark of it, and that's your task finished. Okay, speak to you later, guys. Bye.